Hi, everybody.
Hi, everybody.
Welcome. Hi, I'm Mari Angulo, and I'm helping Holly with this event. Been helping her publicize her book. Okay. So I am a marketer and publicist at Angulo Marketing. We're working with Holly to publicize her book, Rites and Wrongs, and I'm honored to welcome you to her book launch event. Quickly, I want to review a few things about Zoom and a little bit of housekeeping, and then I'll introduce Holly. First of all, Holly hopes that you will all turn on your video if possible during her presentation. It means a lot to her to be able to see her audience. During the reading, by default, everyone's microphones were muted and they'll continue to be muted. This will allow us to focus on Holly as she speaks. We're asking you to keep your mic off for the duration of the event. If you have a question for her, please type it in the chat and she will respond during the Q&A session, which will happen at the end of her presentation. At that time, you'll be able to press the space bar on your keypad to unmute and ask your question. You can also click the microphone icon to unmute. For those of you who are new to Zoom, there are a couple viewing options in a Zoom meeting. You can go ahead and give them a try. You have speaker view, which will focus on the speaker. You have gallery view, and those are the main ones. Here we go, lost a window here. Have your event link handy, the link that you received to enter the meeting. If your connection drops unexpectedly, you can reconnect with it. Same thing with Holly, if she drops or if I drop, we'll be right back on that same link. Now I'd like to introduce Holly Harrison. She is the author of the debut novel, Rites and Wrongs. She has been a writer all of her life. She was only a teenager when she started writing books in her head. As she walked to the bus stop at night, and at night, she whispered made-up stories to her sister after the lights were out. She came to New Mexico and got enchanted. No, she actually came to attend graduate school, but soon became enamored with the land and the people. Now retired from the university, she devotes herself full-time to writing mystery novels. Holly finds the Land of Enchantment provides a multicultural landscape to unfold crimes and misdemeanors. She lives near Old Town, Albuquerque, with her husband, Phil, and two Scottish terriers. When she is not writing, she is writing her Swedish warm blood, Soleil, in the Bosque by the Rio Grande. And now I'm going to ask Holly to please unmute yourself.
Okay.
And just remember, as she's speaking, you can, and a question pops up, you can put it in the chat and we'll come back to it in the Q&A, or just indicate you have a question and we'll go down the list so that you can actually ask her your question. Okay, welcome, Holly.
So I really want to thank everyone for joining today. You know, there's so many people here I haven't seen. I don't want to cry, but it really means a lot to me. Anyway, when I put together this list for the event, it was like skipping down memory lane. There were so many people in my life that sort of had slipped away or moved away. And you know, this gave me an opportunity to reconnect again. And that was really special. This is my book, Rites and Wrongs. And writing a book isn't easy, but what's really difficult is editing, rewriting, not to mention trying to find a publisher. Yeah. And then when my book was finished, the pandemic hit and the publishing world came to a halt. And, you know, everything slowed down, bookstores closed, everything went online, everything changed, and book releases got pushed back. And so I had always imagined when and if I got my book published, I would be down at Bookworks with a small group of people that I had coerced to come and spend an hour listening to me. But here I am, you know, we're on Zoom and I have people from all over the nation and friends and family. And I have even some people from from Europe. So I'm really excited. Rites and Wrongs is actually the second book in a series about Pascal Ruiz, the Santa Fe detective, and his friend, Gillian Jasper. And I wanted to name the book Tonki in honor of the Pueblo where some of the action takes place in the book. But my publisher really felt like it didn't resonate with people. And then my sister, Julie, said every time she saw it, she thought of the word tongue. And, you know, in retrospect, maybe that would have generated some interest, but probably the wrong kind. So I asked them for suggestions and they suggested Rites and Wrongs and a couple other ones. And I chose Rites and Wrongs because it's, you know, it talked to crime, but it also talked to the religious aspects that I've featured in the book. Let's see. I'd like to read you the prologue in the book that sort of sets the tone, or I don't know, maybe some of the tone. At the beginning of the 19th century, a young boy was sent to look for a sheep that had strayed from a herd near the foothills of the Sangre de Cristo Mountains. As he rounded a bend, he saw a group of men. One of them, dressed in a white robe, struggled as he carried a huge cross on his back. The other men marched behind, lashing their backs with yucca stalks and cactus whips. They stopped periodically, murmuring prayers. The boy watched the ceremony mesmerized. The group came to a stop, secured the robed man's hands and feet to the cross, and hoisted him up just as the clouds parted. Now, I came from the East Coast, and I had never heard of the penitentes. Oh, sorry. Philip, take them out. I have to get my husband to take the dogs out. You know? Sorry. I had never heard of the penitentes and their practices, and but I was intrigued, not only with their rituals, but not only with their devotion to God, but their devotion to their community, and in doing research, finding out about their devotion to their community and to their fellow man. And so I wanted to include them, you know, in the book. And I know there's a lot of lore surrounding penitentes, and a lot of people find some of their practices walking the Stations of the Cross during to recreate Jesus's last day on earth, and also their practice of showing penitence by lashing themselves and doing that physical activity. A lot of people find that unacceptable, but in thinking about it, there are a lot of not strange, but interesting religious rituals that we find very common, like taking communion for those people that do, eating the body of Christ and drinking his blood. You know, if you thought about it, it might be something to consider, but I really wanted to show a different side of this group and to dispel some of that lore that people have, and trying to make, you know, especially in this day and age, trying to make people more acceptable towards people's differences. And my husband's correcting me, sorry. Anyway, the book takes place during Holy Week. I know you guys probably think I'm a religious fanatic, but choosing this week between Palm Sunday and Easter, it gave me sort of a short window in which to work on this crime and, solve the riddles in the book. And it also allowed me to feature the procession to Chimayo, a ritual that takes place in New Mexico every year during Easter. And I wanted to read you something at the beginning of the book because it is Easter, and we know that during this week it is spring, and we all know what happens in the spring in New Mexico, the winds. So this is in the very beginning, and it's about Pascal the detective. He could hear the branches of the lilac bush outside the window scratching the screen, and he knew the wind was still blowing. It would be the second day of 40-mile-an-hour winds. The wind made him cranky, but he wasn't alone. Santa Fe seemed to be on edge. Basic courtesies seemed non-existent. When possible, people stayed indoors, and if they had to venture out, they kept their heads down. His girlfriend, well, his friend, shouldn't say girlfriend, it's just his friend for now. Gillian seemed oblivious to the wind, but this was her first New Mexico spring, and she was from the East Coast, where hurricanes blew off the Atlantic. When Pascal first griped about the wind, Gillian had ruffled his hair and laughed. Now, when he mentioned anything about the weather, she would burst into the old Kingston Trio song. They call the wind Mariah. Away out here, they've got a name for rain and wind and fire. The rain is Tess, the fire is Joe, but they call the wind Mariah. I saved you from not singing this song because I can't carry a tune. Pascal hated the winds. He suffered them most his life, but each spring he swore it would be his last. The winds clogged his head and dried his nose until it bled. His lips cracked painfully, no matter how much balm he used. His eyes stung as if packed with tiny particles of glass. Okay. So if you have seen the book and read the back cover, you sort of have a general idea of the story, or if it was also in the announcement and also on my website. So, I promised someone that hadn't read the book I wouldn't do any spoilers. So I just wanted to mention that, Captain is working on, Pascal is working on the case to find this Jesus costume that was in the Santa Fe storage building that was stolen. And then the captain asked him to look into the disappearance of his niece's boyfriend. And the niece and boyfriend have been staying out at Diamond Tail Ranch, and the niece has a part in a TV Western, and he is writing an article on the penitentes and the procession to Chimayo. And when Pascal Ruiz, the detective, goes to look for him, it sets in action a series of events that turn out where he puts his job in jeopardy. And that's all I'm going to say to that. But I also wanted to include, because I talk about the procession and the Chimayo Chapel, those of us in New Mexico are familiar with it, but there is some healing dirt there that is spiritual dirt that supposedly can, heal sickness and other things. Excuse me. So I did write a short piece where the boyfriend, Bobby Pilot, the one that's missing, he remembers going to the chapel when he was 15, and his father wakes him up to, go to the chapel to get dirt because his mother is sick. She's dying. So after a few minutes, his father opened the car door and grasped Bobby's arm for support. His father seemed to have shrunk, no longer the formidable man of Bobby's childhood. Once they were inside the chapel, his father pushed him toward the altar and took refuge in the last pew. Bobby was relieved that they were alone. After he lit a candle, he mumbled, "Get well," under his breath, and took out a quarter and dropped it in the offering box. It clinked as it hit the bottom of the container. His father rose and steered him to the back room. The entryway was low, supported by a heavy beam. They had to duck their heads. El Pocito, the pit, took up most of the room, so they had to skirt their way around the periphery. Bobby stared down at the pit filled with the holy dirt, allegedly capable of both spiritual and physical healing. He was a realist and had his doubts about the dirt's power. And how did the pit magically replenish itself? It was always full, never ran out of dirt. He was sure someone, probably the janitor, brought the dirt from the surrounding hillsides each night when no one was around. He was surprised that his father, usually a pragmatic man, insisted that the dirt was blessed and possessed special powers. Gently, his father pushed him toward the pit. The room was airless and oppressive and smelled of sickness. A wave of claustrophobia enveloped him, and he had to use his sleeve to wipe the perspiration that dripped off his brow. Bobby stared at the thick adobe walls, covered floor to ceiling with discarded implements, crutches, canes, braces, walkers. A wheelchair was shoved into the corner, abandoned. The entire wall was plastered with messages of thanks from the cured, taped haphazardly among the assistive devices. The room was intended to project a sense of miraculous, the discarded equipment no longer needed and left behind. As he scanned the walls, his stomach flip-flopped and left an acrid taste in his mouth. For a moment, he thought he would be sick. His father, impatient, shook his shoulder, placed a small felt sack in his hand and motioned for Bobby to fill it with the holy dirt. Bobby had little faith that this would save his mother. It wasn't about to pass up any chance. We show the map. This map is in the book, and it's the area where a lot of the action, I mean, there are other places, Albuquerque, Santa Fe, Los Alamos, where action takes place. But this area has most of the action. And it is the area between the exit of the San Felipe Casino, the Black Mesa Casino on I-25, and the town of Golden on Route 14, what we know as the Turquoise Trail. And in this area, it sort of encompasses, you know, the multicultural aspects of New Mexico. You have the Diamond Tail Ranch, which is a cattle ranch, and there's a band of wild horses now. In the past, it's been used as a movie studio or a place to film movies. On the ranch land too, there are two ghost towns from the early 1900s, Hagen and Coyote, and there's still ruins of Hagen. And then across from there is Tonki. Sorry. Across from there is Tonki, an ancient pueblo that was occupied from the 14th and 16th centuries, but and there are some ruins, but a lot of it was excavated in the 60s. So there isn't much left there. And oh, can we show the picture of Hagen, the ghost town? This is a picture I took in the 80s. And you can tell it's before we had cell phones where we can take really nice pictures. But there are still buildings left. There are no roofs, and they are disintegrating. But and then a picture of the Tonki Pueblo. So this is in the distance, and if you see those, the what you see there is not the Pueblo. I don't have a picture of the Pueblo, but that's the area where it is. And actually, that's part of a brick factory. In the 80s, well, the late 70s and 80s, I went out to Tonki quite often with my husband, and we had permission from the manager at the ranch, or the foreman of the ranch, to dig clay. And we also took students out there to dig clay, and we made pinch pots and did pit firing. And I wanted to go back when I started writing this book. I wanted to go back and visit the area, but it's off limits now. And there is a roadblock right past the casino on the west part of this area. And then there's a roadblock that prevents you from going to Diamond Tail Ranch. But one place you can go, if we can show the golden photo, the next photo. Oh wait, yeah, this is I actually went out there, and there's a golden open space now that you can go and visit and hike along there and get a sense of the area. There's 2 hiking trails. And I put on my website too a YouTube video of someone that riding a bike along this trail, and it sort of was entertaining watching because he's going really fast and it's a very bumpy trail. But and then can we show the Tonki brick factory? This is the ruin from the Tonki brick factory that was constructed during Hagen's heyday. And they made a lot of bricks, making use of the rich clay deposits in this area. And I actually have a brick here that I found in the 80s that are most of a brick that is a Tonki brick from that factory. Okay, we can go back to screen. The last thing I wanted to share with you was about Pascal's friend Gillian, and I pronounce it Gillian with a hard G and not a J, as probably most of you are familiar with. But Gillian was named after her Scottish grandmother, and Scotland is the only English-speaking country that pronounces it with a hard G. So I thought that this was sort of an interesting fact. And in the book, Pascal, you know, when the captain asked Pascal to go look for Bobby Pilot, he sort of thinks of it as a way to get out of the office, and, you know, and okay, he'll go out there and look. And so he invites his friend, who is pretty new to New Mexico, to go with him. And so I wanted to read a passage from the book about when they go out there to Hagen, the ghost town. Pascal could see the ruins of Hagen in the distance and decided to take a shortcut through the brush. But when he pulled his Jeep off the road, his tires sank into a gully. As he tried to maneuver the Jeep out, he hoped the scrapes and thuds were superficial and wouldn't damage the undercarriage. He gave the gas pedal one more push and the Jeep leaped out of the ditch. He swerved to the right to miss the good-sized mesquite bush, but his right tire hit a hefty piece of alabaster. That brought the vehicle to a halt. I think we better walk from here. You think? Gillian says in her best Southern twang. As Pascal opened his door, he looks over at Gillian. It's a little early for rattlers, but watch your step. Gillian picked up Birdie. Birdie is her mother's dog that she's caring for. Swiveled around toward the door and carefully set her feet on the ground. Rattlers? Put the dog down. She'll alert us if one is nearby. Anyway, snakes won't bother you unless you step on them. I feel so relieved, said Gillian, as she started to think the outing wasn't much fun. She was tired of bumping along on the road. Now she had to trudge through the brush, avoid stickers, burrs, rattlesnakes, to some ghost town. She was cranky. Where was the picnic she envisioned in some scenic locale, maybe near a stream, with an abundance of wildflowers and soft grass for the blanket she'd brought? No worries, there are only two of us. You don't want to be the third on a hike. Gillian detected Pascal's sadistic glee as he continued with the snake lore. The first person wakes the snake. The second makes it mad. That's you. And the third gets bit. The last thing Gillian wanted to do was make a snake mad, and there was no one behind her to sacrifice. She lowered Birdie to the ground. Instantly, the terrier lunged forward and the leash slipped out of her hand. Okay, so that's all I have to share right now, and I would like to open it up to questions. Any questions you have?
While we're getting our questions together, I'm going to take a quick screenshot of the group. So
Oh, yeah,
file.
forgot the screenshot.
Yes. Here we go. Got it. You do have a question actually in the chat already. We have one from Wendy who says, "Hey Holly, where can I get your first book?"
From Wendy?
Yes, Wendy. I'm afraid I'm going to mispronounce it. Eagle.
Oh,
Eagle.
I sent you one, Wendy. Is that what she's asking me when?
Here, let me.
Okay, maybe I didn't
Yourself,
understand.
Wendy. And then Bambi also.
Well, you should just let us know, Holly, where we can buy one.
I did get Rites and Wrongs. I thought you said there was one before that.
Oh, yes, yes. My first book, glad you asked about that. My first book was Ghost Notes, and it was the first in the series introducing Pascal the detective. And it was about a stolen Stradivarius violin that and it takes place in Santa Fe, and the book has not been published. So after I wrote it, I tried to promote it and sent it around and went through, you know, all that's involved, and then I sort of shelved it, and some people have read it. But I shelved it and started writing this book, and I actually have written a third book, but it's not ready either. But if I could send you a printed out copy. Thank
Cool.
you. for
Yes.
asking.
I'm obsessive compulsive, so I like to read the first ones, read them in order.
Okay, okay.
Are you
Okay,
gonna
I'll do that.
You have the digital version too. You could easily send the digital.
Oh, yeah, do you want the digital version?
I'd
Either,
like one.
Who's that?
Bambi. Hi,
Bambi
Holly.
What?
I want your first and I'm gonna buy your second. And then
Okay,
when I hear your third, I'm very excited for you.
okay, thank you, thank
Love
you.
you very much.
Okay,
hey, Holly,
yes.
this is Joan from the
Where are
barn.
you?
Let's see, where am I?
Oh, I see you. I see part of you from the nose up.
Is this better?
Yes, now I see you.
Yeah. I actually I have 3 questions, and one is that we're coming right up on Easter, and the walk to Chimayo, it was canceled last year because of the pandemic, so I'm not sure if it's going to happen this year, but I've done it a couple of times. And I was wondering, my first question was the publication of the book, was it just a coincidence that it came out around this time? Or was it actually in the planning that it would come out in this time, because we're so close to Easter and we're so close to that Chimayo walk?
You know what? It was not planned. I mean, my publisher kept saying because of the pandemic, he didn't know when it would be released. And then all of a sudden, January 1st, it was released. And I too think that, yes, it's the perfect time
Perfect
because
timing. Yeah.
Easter is coming up.
Yeah. Okay, the second one was I was curious. I'm always curious about how much is fact and how much is fiction. And you had some really intriguing locations, and it seems like the Diamond Tail Ranch is a real place. But you talked about a bakery in Santa Fe and a place to eat in Santa Fe. And you did anyway. First of all, I really enjoyed your book, and congratulations on it's just an amazing accomplishment. So
Well,
anyway, I was just wondering, are those locations that you mentioned, are they pretty factual?
Yes, well, Diamond Tail Ranch is a real ranch, and you can't go there anymore, but it is still a ranch, and they still have cattle and wild horses, and the bakery. I think I looked up. I try and always look up places and have real places, and not make them up. So I'm not sure. I think that is a real bakery, but in Santa Fe.
Yeah.
I don't know. Does anybody know that bakery?
What's the bakery called, Holly? What is it called?
What's the name of it?
I have no idea.
I can't
What's the
remember.
name, Joe?
It's in there though. It's in there.
Yeah, it's in the book, and yeah, I try and keep I do a lot of research for the books, and I did a lot of research on the penitentes, and I hope that I didn't offend anyone. I hope that I didn't misrepresent them, because I did make up things about a character in the book that is a penitente, but most of the things are factual that I talked about. I mean, not the personality of the person, but his history, how that person became a penitente is, I research it, and that's how it happens.
It was interesting, really interesting. And then there was that equestrian facility out of Algodones, so I was interested in that one. Remember?
Oh, yeah.
Anyway,
I mean, that place doesn't exist, unfortunately, but you know what? I did have a person I knew that I actually took lessons from that had a horse facility out in Algodones. Of course, I embellished it and made it seem like it was a farm in Virginia.
exactly.
But there is a I don't know if that facility is still out there, but I did know someone who went out there and created a
And then the last one, it seems like, it seems like maybe you've already answered it, but it does seem like there would be another book. At the end, there seemed like there was room for another book. So is that what your third book will be about then? Will be?
Well, yes, my third book does include the characters, but as you know, because you've read the book, so you can't say anything to spoil it for other people, but you
Mhm.
know that things
La, la,
have
la,
to
la.
change. Things have to change in the next book, and the next book is a little bit different. It doesn't have all the history and all the New Mexico kind of things. It takes place in New Mexico, but it's more about the people and relationships, and involves senior online dating and dementia and some other topics that we're all dealing with.
You were quite knowledgeable about ballistics, so I'll
Oh,
sign
yeah.
off.
I researched that. I sort of had a good time with that,
Yeah.
with the ballistics.
Yeah.
I mean, that's part of the fun things about writing is researching and sharing things with people that they might not, have any way or reason to ever know about.
Yeah.
So
So thanks, Holly. Congratulations.
thank you, Joan, for all your questions.
And
Question for Holly.
question from Jackie.
Hi,
Jackie,
Jackie.
Jackie.
We miss you.
Yeah, we miss
Be
you.
there. I might come down this fall.
Good.
I was a
Yeah,
member of
party.
Wantomas Hounds, and we hunted there.
Oh,
We took our
okay.
horses to Hagen and walked up the steps with the horses.
You're kidding.
No, we were right there. And the problem was the Pueblo closed that road.
Yes,
And I met with the Pueblo people.
yes.
That is illegal for them to do that.
Yeah, it's a public road. Yeah.
And how did you find out it was illegal for them to close it?
Oh, I read something. I researched it, and they said that it was in dispute, but it's going to take a long time to ever get it open, and they probably never will get it open because
They never will.
Diamond Tail Ranch has a road right, where La Maderna Road
The back way.
into Hagen.
Yeah,
Right there, they have it. They have a roadblock. I went out there, and you cannot get to Diamond Tail Ranch. You can go down from Golden, south of Golden. You can go down.
right. I've taken that road.
Yeah.
It's long and it's a pain in the butt. But
Oh, the Verdera Road.
it's the back way to 14. Okay, it's the
Yeah.
eastern way.
There's two roads. There's the Puertocito Road is right south of Golden, and you can take it down there. And the La Maderna Road is really long. And you
Yes.
can take it there, but that's as far as you can go. Everything from there to the casino is cut off.
Right. And we thought, we could take it as the hunt to the county commissioners of Sandoval County.
Yeah.
But we decided not to do that. But I hope those movie people take it to the county, Sandoval County, because that's hard for them to get into Diamond Tail.
Yeah.
That's my statement.
I don't know if they're still doing, I know 5 years ago they were doing films out there, but I don't know if they still are or.
They're still doing films the past 2 years.
Okay.
3 years.
Okay.
And then what else? They're still doing films and they don't have the cattle anymore.
Okay.
There's Jeep tours there and wild horses, but no cattle anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. I liked how you researched everything because I hunted all over that territory. Thank you, Holly.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I have a question. Holly, how long does it take you to write a book?
I think approximately 3 years to actually write it, and then
To finish it with editing and all of that?
No, that's just
Oh, just-
writing the book.
Just the writing and then the editing takes a while too.
Yes,
Uh-huh.
yes. Probably another year for the editing.
How do
Right.
you know when you're finished?
I don't know.
You
That's where
want to keep going back and changing and
when you
changing.
can't. You know, I used to work writing grants, and we were a team, and so we would write the grant and then give it to someone else and then pass it around. And I always had this theory, by the time it got back around to the first person, it was exactly how that person had written it. So maybe writing a book's the same way. It just until you can't stand to edit anymore and you just say, I'm done.
Okay.
I always find with artwork, it's good to step back from it for a while and then come
Oh,
back
yeah.
and see if it really does need any more. You should know that.
Yes, definitely. Thanks, Wendy. I appreciate that.
Otherwise, I detail things to death.
Yes.
And it looks like Betty has a question. Betty, would you like to ask your question?
Where is Betty?
Sure. I just was wondering, Holly, if you have your whole story really firmly in mind before you start, or does it kind of evolve as you write?
Yes, I think that it evolves. It definitely evolves. I mean, for a while, I was using sort of the idea that I sort of had an idea for the story, and then the characters sort of took it away. But that's not really true. I mean, it's not totally true. So I sort of have an idea, like for this book, my idea, I didn't have, I mean, I had the thing with, you know, Bobby disappearing and looking, but I didn't know how it was going to turn out. And actually I changed who was responsible. So I think it's
actually get it though?
yeah, I think that sometimes things change in writing, but it's just sort of like I just sort of sit down and I write and things come to me and I enjoy it and I research and then add things. And so it's really a process. It's not, I don't use an outline. I just write till the story's over.
And how do you go about finding a publisher? Do you just send it out to everybody?
Well, that's the $5,000 million question. It's not easy, and these days publishing, you know, the publishing world has really changed. I mean, not just with the pandemic, it had changed before that. And the days of, you know, getting published and supported and all that stuff isn't easy. And so, you know, you have to find one and you have to do queries, you have to, and in the past it was easier because you could go to book events and you could pitch your book and you to agents and then, but now that's all over. So for the time being, so it's really a daunting process. And I actually went with, I'll be honest, I went with a hybrid publisher where you share some of the costs of getting published and then you get more of the profit. So you pay some upfront, but then supposedly get more.
So now that this one's published, do you want to go back to your first one and see if it would be published?
Yeah, I would love that. I would love that. Hopefully, if there's enough interest in this book, then that might do some openings. I mean, my first book, I did have, you know, an agent, and she decided that she didn't want to go with it, and so it's a terrible process.
I bet.
Writing the book is fun, but after that,
Yeah, you probably
it's
have
a
to be,
challenge. It's
you
a
have to be a
challenge.
little tough.
Yeah. And it's just, you know, it's like with the art world too, you know, any kind of creative endeavor is extremely challenging.
Well,
You
it's
know,
so
that-
subjective too.
Very subjective, yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just the luck of the draw, you know, some people have, you know, that guy who wrote that thing that where the person's up in space forever, lost in space. You know, it was a really well-known, made a movie, and he had, you know, pitched his book to 1 million people and then caught on.
Yeah, I think that happens quite often.
Yeah.
You get turned down, and finally somebody publishes it and it turns out to be a bestseller.
Yes. Well, let's hope so.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that can help is that, well, we can order it through our local booksellers and, you know, that'll get it out in the different regions where we live and maybe it'll spread that way.
Yes,
Well,
yes.
that's
And I
lovely.
do encourage people to buy from your local booksellers. They're all, you know, really struggling in this day and age. And, you know, so I hope that people will support not only with my book, but anytime that you have to buy a book. I know it's easy to go online to Amazon, but
Holly, do you think you're going to do the audio version and you read it yourself? Or are you going to get?
oh
someone
no,
else to read it?
how I read. That's my sister. She's being,
No. I think it
I
could
would
be,
never do the audio version myself.
Kathy would be a good reader. I think
Kathy?
Yeah, Kathy would be a good reader.
Okay. We'll find anyone who wants to record it.
Do we have any more questions?
Holly, I have a question. Hi.
Hi, Fran.
Is your first book at all referenced in this one? Or like if you did work on your first one a little further and get it published, could it potentially be like the second? You know what I mean? Like, does he reference the Stradivarius experience? Does it
Yeah.
have to go in that order?
Well,
reference it.
I think the first book gives a lot more background on Pascal and a lot more background on Gillian.
Okay, so it makes sense that that's for, well, yeah, it could be a little bit unusual, but you could just read the beginning story later.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking about it for
Yeah.
when this, you know, gets really popular and then you decide to publish
Right.
the first
Look,
one.
Star Wars. Look at what Star Wars did. I mean,
That's
that could be
right,
a
kind of like
whole
the
different
beginning.
Franco version.
Yeah.
It would
What else
be
as it
the
does though?
reboot, or what do they call that when you go to
Prequel.
prequel?
Yeah.
But yeah, Francis, it does actually reference it. I think right at the beginning, it talks about how he kind of got famous a little bit, or he kind of, what was that, Holly? It's like he got
Oh,
a lot of infamy from.
Solved the case of the stolen Stradivarius files.
It's
Right,
what
so-
someone just said in a message. It would be the prequel.
Right,
Prequel,
and it's but it does hint at that, so you're kind of curious. So
Yeah. That's
I think
good.
it draws the curiosity of like, oh, well, what's that one? What did he do there? So I thought that was a good reference back, Holly. Well done.
Okay, good. Yeah, I you know, the first book was very dear to me because, you know, it was about, you know, music and the Tartini tones, which are the ghost notes, and just had a lot of mystery and stuff I was interested in. But
And Gillian was you. You also created.
no, she
Gillian.
wasn't me.
Well, she worked at the music studio and
Oh yeah, that's true. That's
she
true.
definitely
I-
had parts of you in her.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of autobiographical stuff in the first book, which I don't think I go into as much in this. So
Now I really have to read it.
yeah.
I missed a lot of years in there, Holly.
I know, a lot of years. Oh,
Okay.
any more questions?
I'm going to Oh, is that a question, Martha?
No, I said none from me.
Okay, okay.
I'm going
Or-
to drop
Or
some-
I'll ask her at the barn
Yeah,
when I think of another
The
one.
Barney.
I heard about the
One
barn.
of the
I thought,
stories,
that sounds like fun people.
Yes, yes.
I think the next story, book number 4, should involve the horses in the barn.
Definitely.
Oh, Phil always
Yeah.
says that, right? A barn.
Or an old car.
Oh,
But the barn, I hear
yeah,
more about the barn.
yeah. Might have to do the barn.
Yeah.
So we will be sending you a follow-up email with a recording of this event and links to buy the book. I'll also throw them in the chat here. And Holly does have some signed copies. Bookworks in Albuquerque does have some physical copies as well. She's been sending them there. And they have a curbside service available right now. Holly, do you have any parting words?
Oh, I just really want to thank all of you for joining in and supporting me. And it's really amazing to see everyone and people that I haven't seen, some people in a long time and others.
Some high school friends here, Holly.
Yes, Wendy's from high school.
Wow.
Yeah, a long,
Oh, and
long
before
time.
that, childhood.
Yeah,
Before that, too. Yeah.
Yeah, Julie, you still have that beautiful long dark hair.
Oh, it's not long, but it's half dark.
You had more than that.
Half dark.
I used to actually have hair back then.
Yeah.
well, as you guys can see, I'm getting that Rapunzel look. If as soon as I get vaccinated, I'm going to the hairdresser. But
I think we should all clap for Holly. Oh, hey, take your audio off. Take your audios off so she can hear us clapping. Yay.
got to see everyone.
Proud of you. So proud of you.
No.
Daya, clap, Daya.
But,
Yay.
yeah.